just don't believe in the preservation of the hadith. They say a lot of them is unauthentic, the science is questionable, we shall see how. When they say that, they have no idea what they're talking about. Okay? Alright, so the science is questionable and all of that. There were different sects. Should I cover that here? You don't even know these sects, so it's not going to make any sense to you, so don't worry about it. But in modern times, basically, these are the two main arguments. Preservation of the Sunnah, it's questionable. Second is applicability of the Sunnah in our times. Remember I told you about the challenge of modernity, which is, that's just, they historicize it, and they say, oh, that was true in their time, it doesn't really apply in our time. Okay, there's a place to do that, but I mean, they say that for everything. So it's all archaic, old, ancient stuff, and we don't need to apply it. That's one argument. And you know Ghamidi, Javed Ghamidi? Yeah. Okay. He's a brilliant guy. He has a methodology. He's an Usul. Okay? Remember? Huh? Yes, of course. He's an Usuli. Hello? Brilliant guy. And what I'm going to say, don't take that as a negative statement. I'm just telling you a fact. Okay? Because I'm not knocking him. Okay, brilliant guy. He has a definition of Sunnah. He's like, do I take everything from the Sunnah? Like even the way he brushed his teeth with the miswak, or the way he wore his clothes. Should I always wear this clothes? Is that Sunnah mustahabba? Should I always do that? No, he said his Sunnah, his role was, and we will talk about the role of Rasulullah here in a second. He's saying, if you listen to Javed Ghamidi and read his books, he's saying that his role was to give a Sharia, Quran and the Sharia. Quran was his one responsibility, Sharia, how we should worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what our aqidah is, that was his role, and how to worship and how to deal with how to get married and do the daily dealings and how to buy and sell things, etc. He said what he liked to eat, or the way he dressed, or his clothing and all of this stuff is not, he says that is not a Sunnah that's binding to us. Actually, that's true for many scholars, but he's been very clear about that. Okay, so he puts a box around the Sunnah. If Sunnah is this, then for Ghamidi, Sunnah is this. Okay? He's not a crazy guy. He's a real smart guy. But he has a methodology. That's his methodology. Okay? Alright, bottom. Alright, so role of Rasulullah, I think this is going to be, this is important just for us to know. And we all know this. Go through this very quickly. Do not forget, where does the Quran come from? Yes, it comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But who's our source? Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We have to understand that. Why is this important? You'll see the significance of that, inshallah, when we do the Quranic sciences. Okay? All deen is delivered through Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Through Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So you have to have the knowledge of the seerah in the Islamic history before you can have an opinion. If you don't know, don't speak. Right? Zip it. Right? He was the embodiment of the Quran. So if you want to follow the Quran, what do? You look to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Okay, Quran, for example, there's a big debate in modern times right now around hitting the spouse, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the ayah says, beat them, right? At the very end. I'm not going into the detail of the ayah, but I just want to help you understand one thing, priorities, okay? An allowance in the Quran doesn't mean an allowance or permission in the Quran doesn't mean that's something you need to adopt. Okay? Did Rasulullah ﷺ ever raise his hand, ever, on anyone? Anas bin Malik, the little child, Sahabi, radiallahu anhu, he was a servant of Rasulullah ﷺ for 10 years until he passed away. He spent every living minute with Rasulullah ﷺ. Anas bin Malik. We'll look at that. he said he never, ever raised a hand on me, even when I made mistakes, horrible mistakes. He'd never raised a hand on anyone. So, okay, there's an ayah here. The feminist critical theorists, they can come and say, oh, look at Islam. You know, it allows beating of the of wives. By the way, this is a very, very conditional statement. I can spend like the next 2 hours talking about that. I don't want to do that. Okay, so don't let that confuse you. I'm just trying to make a point. We prioritize. We understand the Quran through Rasulullah. The application and the understanding comes from Sunnah. Understand? Okay. Okay. So all this confusion goes away. The argument is, okay, yes, the Quran says that. Yes, I believe in it. Alhamdulillah. But that is not the Sunnah. So that's not how we're supposed to live it. End of argument. Okay. All right. Good. So he explained the Quran. So one of the rules of tafsir is, for example, we'll go into that later on, that when you interpret the Quran, before you use your head, try to see what the Sunnah says about how to interpret this ayah, and then you use your head. Okay, so that's different things. Okay. Too much. I think you really need to know the content of the Quran before any of this is going to make sense. I'm sorry. Rasulullah ﷺ is an independent source of law. Did Allah make all the laws, or Rasulullah ﷺ made also laws? Rasulullah ﷺ also made laws. And if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala disagreed with the law he made, then he reprimanded him in the Quran. In the Quran. You understand? So, later on we will learn this word like a lawmaker. So a lot of the fuqaha, when they're talking about fiqh, they will say the lawmaker says. So they use the term the lawmaker instead of Allah or Rasulullah, because they use a generic lawmaker. Shari', they say. Shari'. The one who is doing the lawmaking. Alright. Rasulullah as a teacher, we all know, his character. I don't know if this is important necessarily to go to. His wisdom, his humility. He used to, one of his, this is kind of nice to just know. He always spoke with knowledge, right? And whenever he spoke very little. But what he said was very deep. So there's a term for that. It comes from one of the Hadith. One of the Sahabi says, maybe Aisha radiallahu anha said, I can't remember. He was his words were Jawami al-Kalim. He was very comprehensive speech. Okay, Jawami al-Kalim. That was his style of speaking, and he was very, very bold when he spoke. We need to know this stuff when we go into the Hadith sciences, how this becomes important. Okay. He used to always, when somebody asked him a question, he always responded with what was not necessarily the answer to that question generically. He always responded with what was appropriate for that person to hear, the answer that's relevant to that person. Okay. For example, one Sahabi came to him and says, "What should I do?" He's like, "Don't be angry," because he knew that person has an anger management issue. Don't be angry. He also spoke very, very boldly. He said, for example, "La yu'minu ahadukum." None of you have iman except, and then there's many hadith like that. Okay. For example, one of them, the golden rule. لا يؤمن أحدكم حتى يحب لأخيه ما يحب لنفسه. That none of you will believe unless you love for your brother what you love for yourself. Wow. Do we take that literally? Somebody has no iman at all, zero, they go out of the fold of Islam? No, that's not what it means. It just means your iman is not complete. But that's how he spoke. When he wanted to make a point, he used to make these bold statements. Okay? people, misinterpreted the way he spoke, and they made certain things, and, it's haram to do this, and they based on these kind of statements. And anyway, there's a whole science on how to leverage these statements and actually derive law from them. Is something haram, or is makruh, or what is it, right? Anyway, all right. Must all sunnah be followed? I think we briefly touched on that. That no, some things were just special for Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, like what he liked to eat. He didn't like to eat, for example, lizard meat. Does it mean that you can't eat lizard meat? No, you can. He just didn't like to. His companion ate lizard meat next to him. Like, yeah, go ahead, enjoy yourself. Yeah, Khalid ibn Walid, for example. Some things were special for him, like night prayer was, according to most opinions, was mandatory for him. Okay, or the other opinion is he never gave it up because he never wanted to give it up. Okay, that was his sunnah. But did he impose that on us? No. Number of wives, for example. We are just 4 wives, and actually just 1, because if you can't do justice to the rest, you shouldn't even try, right? But he had allowance, right? He got the priority of selecting from the war booty. So when you have actually wage war and you have the ghanima, the war booty that comes in, he gets to decide what to keep, what not to keep, and what to distribute, right? Some things are just his khasa'is, they're called. So the things that are just specific to him. That is not sunnah for us. You understand? That's what I'm trying to say. That's not sunnah to us. Okay. And then, the way he lived and the clothing that he wore. For example, he always wore a turban. How many people in Arabia at that time wore a turban? Everyone, come on. Everyone wore a turban. Everyone wore a turban. The clothes that Rasulullah ﷺ wore were the same as the clothes Abu Jahl wore.
The word turban, what do you mean by?
I don't know. It's a
cover.
Yeah.
The turban is the Indian.
The imam.
Like.
No.
Imam is in left foot.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So what I'm trying to say is what Rasulullah ﷺ dressed as, or what he ate, or what the way he combed his hair. He had two ponytails or 2 braids behind his head. People did that. Go ahead, if you want to follow all of the sunnah, then I better not see you with your hair cut. Go ahead and have 2 braids behind your head, always. That's sunnah. Right? So it's very easy for us to pick and choose, and we pick and choose all the time. But when it comes to, you get the point. Wow, mashallah, really nice audience. Barakallahu feekum. I'm sorry, I have not paused yet. Let's just finish this, and then inshallah we'll talk about the rest. I'll give you guys a break. Okay, we already talked about Ghamidi. Okay, categories of sunnah. What is the sunnah doing? Okay. If we have the Quran, why do we need Rasulullah? This should be a question. No, it's a valid question. If we have the Quran, why do we need a messenger? After the messenger gives the message, for example, for Musa alayhi salam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he had the tablets where, they were written, the Torah was written, great. Then you don't need Musa alayhi salam. Musa alayhi salam can pass away after that. Or Rasulullah after he delivered the Quran in one shot, he can pass away after that. Why do we need Rasulullah? He's the explainer of the Quran. He's a teacher of the Quran. This is sunnatullah, that you don't get the Quran in one shot. It's actually a blessing, because the Quran came down. We'll talk about that inshallah when we do the Quran sciences, how it came down, and what's the wisdom behind it. So he's the explainer of the Quran, and he's teaching us how to live the Quran. Okay, this is why Aisha radiallahu anha, she said he was كان خلقه قرآن. Somebody asked Aisha radiallahu anha, what was Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam like? And on purpose they're asking Aisha radiallahu anha, our mother, a wife of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because they wanted to know the way he was outside the home, was he really like that inside the home too? You understand? When you want to really get to know a guy, you ask the wife, how is this guy? Is he a good guy or a bad guy? Does he treat you nicely or badly? Not how they seem outside. So this is why they asked Aisha radiallahu anha. And what did she say? كان خلقه قرآن. His character was an embodiment of the Quran. That's how he was. That's why we need the Sunnah. We learn how to live the Quran. All right, let's take a break because the next one is a heavy topic. Okay, it's a heavy topic.
5 minutes, right?